Over 200 years ago, the ecosystems of Earth were forever changed. But in that moment of explosive finality, a new world was birthed. Far from total destruction, the defiling of many organisms' atomic structures, strangely enough, didn't hinder their survival, but rather cemented their vitality in the wake of dire circumstances. Life thrived against all odds to ensure that yet another extinction event would remain but a small hiccup in the history of Earth, and despite suffering a multitude of mutations, a fair amount of species managed to pick up where they left off, refusing to abandon their roles in the circle of life, with the most notable among them being the mammals that endured. The Nuka World Safari Adventure, home to the gator claw which, fingers crossed, goes extinct soon, also happens to be the home of the Ghoulrilla. Unique ghoulifications of the silverback gorillas held in captivity here before the bombs dropped, they survived as a small colony working to keep their species alive and even adopted a caveman, an act that showed their willingness to work with others and was all the pack needed to know before going right into domesticating them.
If you were to compare a gorilla to a random member of the pack, the chances of finding someone who is decent and well-mannered is more likely to be on the side of the gorilla. Most pack members here are some degree of psychotic or hopped up on, well, something. I'm not entirely sure what they're on half the time, which makes the gorillas arguably some of the better members of the pack. I mean, they're just the best. We have them roaming around sometimes and they just hang out, maybe drink with us, maybe play a prank or two. We sometimes hang out with them near the tire swings, but their favorite pastime is 100% roughhousing. That's what they seem to take it as, at least, even though they're supposed to be actual in-house fights, but I'm convinced they're not taking it seriously at all. I've seen firsthand what a gorilla can do to a brummelup that gets in their way, and needless to say, the heads are not staying attached to the body. And if that's the case, yeah, I don't see a pack of mongrels beating a gorilla in a fight anytime soon. So they're holding back. It's obvious. But I don't mind them holding back, of course. Makes the bets more interesting. This is George. He's cool, laid back, one of the main pranksters of the pack. We originally wanted to name the caveman George, but he already had a name, and seeing as there were no monkeys around either, we kinda had to settle for naming one of the gorillas George instead, which isn't quite the same, but it's close enough. No.
You sure?
Not right now. I'm just in the middle of something.
I can't believe I got my hopes up.
Sorry.
The gorilla is a rare instance of ghoulification occurring on a species other than humans, but it's not the only kind of gorilla out there. Technically. With the rise of synthetic organisms in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, sightings of synth gorillas have emerged, often as companions to local settlers, but it's yet to be seen if these specific variants will stand the test of time. When it comes to the deadliest of creatures within the wastelands, few come close to rivaling the Deathclaw, but the Yao Guai does make a solid case for itself. Far stronger and more resilient than the predecessors, the Yao Guai, having mutated from the American black bear, can subsequently be found within all regions of the United States. At least this is the belief so far, as no information has proved otherwise. Yao Guai are usually found occupying heavily forested regions or caves, and have shown to be highly territorial creatures, willing to sink their teeth into anything they deem an intruder, or potentially savory. The territorial instincts have even led some into attacking deathclaws that have wandered too close, with some said deathclaws being observed as utterly bewildered that they're being attacked at all. Although some Yao Guai live alone, it's not uncommon to find them roaming in pairs or small packs. When formed, these groupings of Yao Guai become tight-knit families, warm and caring to each other, but viciously hostile to outsiders. It's worth noting that keeping your distance and refraining from entering their territory should be enough to keep from experiencing the joys of the Yao Guai firsthand, but it's not always a guarantee. The Yao Guai gets its name from descendants of Chinese civilians and immigrants of the pre-war era, who in the wake of a new Red Scare were held in internment camps against their will. But once the bombs fell, the threat of communism seemed void in the place of pure survival. Populations blended together, and the name Yao Guai, meaning monster or demon, caught on as the moniker for the mutated bears. Now, despite the moniker, Yao Guai can be tamed in rare occasions, a feat not for the weak and should only be attempted by professional animal whisperers.
We got this Yao Guai here, locked up for obvious reasons. Caught him not too long ago, but the process of domestication is coming along sort of slower than expected. In levels of difficulty for taming, a Yao Guai would land somewhere around a 6. It's not the worst animal to attempt taming, and if you compare it to something like a Radsquirrel, for instance, then in that case, training a Yao Guai looks like a breeze. Now that doesn't mean it won't be a challenge, and the process of a Yao Guai's domestication can be complicated without proper experience. It's a task that could take months to even years before finding success. Not to mention, you still have to survive the process yourself. I should clarify that most of the remains in that cage have nothing to do with that problem. More the result of us sending people in as punishment. No, wait, that would actually explain why it's taking a lot longer than normal with this guy. There's also remains of 1 or 2 wranglers in there as well, but I say they got too trusting too fast. They barely gave it a couple of days before they went in. Impressively idiotic confidence those guys had. First guy tried riding him like a horse. Second guy tried giving him a bear hug. It seems they both forgot that they were dealing with an animal, and that respect goes both ways. Isn't that right?
While difficult to do so, once a Yao Guai has been successfully domesticated, they'll often treat their tamer like family, going to great lengths to protect their human companion from seeing even a hint of harm. Like many other species, the Yao Guai is no stranger to variations in appearance and behaviors, with location and additional mutations often playing a critical role. In the capital wasteland and different parts of the Southwest Commonwealth, for instance, the effects of severe radiation has resulted in large percentages of Yao Guai suffering intense burns, mange, and excessive cellular damage, as well as displaying somewhat elongated front limbs, although their posture makes it hard to say for sure. Other effects of high-level radiation can be seen in the glowing and irradiated Yao Guai, with the glowing Yao Guai giving off radioactive particles from its body, subsequently invoking radiation sickness in its prey, while the heavily irradiated variant, covered with bone growths, has proven nigh impossible to avoid once within its vicinity, as its awareness of surroundings has become unmatched in its efficiency. But albinism has by far produced the weirdest of effects when introduced to radiation, as for whatever reason, the mixing of radiation and this specific mutation often results in a creature with high levels of aggression and a ridiculous increase to overall strength.
What? Why are you looking at me for? Not albino.
So you're... what?
Pale?
That's an understatement. Have you ever even seen the sun before? You do know what the sun is, yes?
Yeah, I know what the sun is.
No need to lie.
Why would I lie about that?
You don't look all that strong. Or aggressive, for that matter.
I'm not albino!
Okay, just a bit aggressive. Maybe there is some truth. While the Yao Guai boasts a gruesome look alongside its ferocity, many have shown to still warn approaching creatures to turn back while they still can, by standing on their hind legs and imposing their size in an attempt of dissuasion, or grunting and growling before finally committing to hunting down the uninvited guests in a relentless fashion. This isn't to say that you'll always get a warning, and should you be attacked on sight, the unfortunate reality is that you've more than likely had a run-in with a Yao Guai carrying rabies, a deplorable disease that works fast and becomes incurable once symptoms emerge, meaning that even if you do survive by some miracle, it's only a matter of time really before a different form of horror claims your life. Foaming at the mouth, suffering hallucinations and paralysis, perhaps dying slowly in a ditch despite your many accomplishments in life. I don't know, nature's gotten pretty hardcore as of late. Either way, nasty business, but again that's assuming that you've avoided getting stomped and sampled in the first place. This Yao Guai has experienced another rare case of ghoulification, but the process has affected the Yao Guai considerably, placing it in a constant state of discomfort and fatigue, a state so overbearing it takes the majority of the Yao Guai's attention, leaving it almost completely unaware of anything else happening around it. A pity. And so, to ease its pain and suffering just a bit, we've gone ahead and left a basket of tawberries, mute fruits, and fresh radstag meat for it to enjoy. Let's move on. So far, Only the Yao Guai have been confirmed as a mutation of bears in the post-apocalyptic landscape, but it hasn't stopped some locals of the Southern Commonwealth from believing other mutations of bears may exist, such as a two-headed bear, a misconception due to the new California Republic and its redesigning of the old California Republic flag, to which they added a second head to symbolize change, the new mutated world, the NCR's capability to take on that world, and above all else, to symbolize the NCR's strength and resilience. However, due to the nature of the fallout and the vast unexplored regions of the world, it remains a possibility that a species of two-headed bear is out there, just yet to be discovered. And on the topic of undiscovered bear species, reports of a unique Yao Guai variant described distinctly as being covered in perpetual flames has come out of Zion Canyon. But seeing as claims come originally from a man under the heavy influence of drugs, the reports of said specimen have since been written off. Across the desert expanse encapsulating much of the Southern Commonwealth, the bighorner has become essential to many local settlements as a source of fresh meat and milk, along with their hide and horns being of equal value. A mutation of bighorn sheep, bighorners prefer rocky terrain with access to lush plains of grasses and vegetation, an ideal habitat, allowing natural geographical protection against predators, giving them a chance to escape of the mountainside should the need arise. However, if a member of the herd is to be preyed upon, the scene could turn ugly fast, even more so with the presence of a bighorner bull, who will no doubt endeavour to send whatever the threat might be directly into the ground with a sound hit from its massive horns. Identifying a bull may prove tricky, as both the male and female bighorners will grow horns, thus the only real identifier is the bull's considerable size. The larger the herd, the more dangerous, as no member will be left out in terms of bashing the offender until death. If left alone, the bighorners are perfectly content with grazing and enjoying banana yucca if available. Although useless in terms of handling extra baggage, only ever sitting if one were to attempt to use one as a pack mule, the taste for flora has made them particularly useful in the tracking of herbs. Appalachia, a vast region of mountain ranges and sprawling forests, but with our first expedition having gone radio silent, a second expedition was required to learn of their fate and continue their observations, later confirming the demise of the first expedition by way of, oh fuck me. Look at the size of those things.
Yeah, that's kill you size.
What is kill you size, Mike? Everything out there can kill us with ease.
And this is exactly why we respect nature.
Upon arrival in West Virginia, the crew was set upon by settlers of the area, who proceeded to forcibly restrain them before waterboarding them all with a Nuka-Cola concoction, which they claimed to be a preventative measure against an aggressively infectious disease contained in the area known as the Scorched Plague. But as some of the bottles were labeled "My Blood's in it," taking the word at face value seemed questionable. Nevertheless, it was here we found living proof of the humble red squirrel, as apparently the ones in Massachusetts are far too shy to ever show themselves. The telltale destructive nature of radiation has once again presented itself in the form of severe hair loss, a symptom that begs the question, how are the creatures that suffer this side effect surviving the winter seasons? Perhaps they huddle together, cover themselves in mud, soot, or leaves to retain their warmth. Unfortunately, for now, it's a question to be left unanswered. Here in the Appalachian wilderness, spanning through the West Virginia state, species of beaver and opossum have survived, tanking the radioactive effects and attempting to carry on like nothing happened. But the exposure to such high levels has distorted the two in a cruel and completely unwarranted way, mostly for the opossum, as that particular species has been mutated and forced to live with a second tail, extra limbs, appendages growing from their backs, and worst of all, 2 extra heads that add quite literally nothing at all. God, the eyes don't even move. But the mouths do. There's not much to really go on. It seems that unlike two-headed creatures such as the red stag or Brahmin, the opossum's additional heads do not work in tandem with one another, serving zero purpose beyond biologically decorative displays upon the shoulders, despite being an obvious dominant trait in this species. As to how it earned that dominance, well, it's best to assume radioactive shenanigans are to blame. Even more unfortunately for the opossum, the survival tactic of playing dead has been all but lost, having been rendered an inadequate defense against the new threats present, many of which would be undeterred by a potential food source regardless of its living status. As for the beaver, a mutation similar to the irradiated Yao Guai has taken root, sporting spiked growths from its back and tail. But rather than causing issues for the beaver as opposed to the opossum situation, these spikes appear to have defensive capabilities. As to whether the beaver actually uses them in that regard is uncertain. It is possible the beaver could use its tail spikes to ward off predators, but because of the beaver's docile nature, the likelihood that the beaver will choose to flee in the presence of danger over standing its ground is the more expected outcome. Often found near lakes, ponds and rivers, the beaver has continued to contribute its ecological importance, reshaping the local ecosystems through the building of dams to regulate water dispersion and improve its quality via natural filtration. Their efforts have allowed many other species of plants and animals to flourish and have become pivotal in the healing of Earth from the devastation of atomic warfare. It seems Mother Nature has kept the beaver in mind, evolving their teeth to be far more effective, likely speeding up their impact on the environment and in turn allowing the ecosystems they inhabit to heal in record time. Either due to their acknowledged effectiveness to the ecosystem or the fact that both are passive herbivores living their best lives, the beavers and opossums of Appalachia have often found themselves spiritually adopted by local Appalachians intent on preserving the two species by any means necessary, most prominently by setting up their homes nearby in hopes of accommodating and protecting them from both predators and the occasional poacher. If there is one creature that has defied all logic, one only has to look at the curious case of the house cat. Thought to be extinct by many, the house cat has eluded the understanding of ecologists, wildlife biologists, and zoologists alike, as their very existence serves as an enigma of the Fallout biological revisionings. While the Western Commonwealth saw cats hunted into obscurity, the Eastern Commonwealths have seen somewhat stable populations of the feline, leading some to speculate that the majority of cats alive today exist due to being sheltered within bunkers or vaults, though others theorize that they may have reacted similar to the wastelanders who survived the initial bombings, slowly adapting and becoming resistant to radioactivity over time. But just like us, too much radioactive exposure and mutations, deformations, and atomic dissimilation is sure to follow. The theories continue, some a bit more outlandish, with one theory speculating that cats did in fact mutate, but that the mutation they obtained is visually unobservable. The mutation in question, that cats somehow gained a biological realization of the 9 lives proverb. Experiments to confirm this theory, however, are highly frowned upon. Don't you worry, I'd never let them hurt you. Other theories suggest that cats were being petty and simply couldn't be bothered to mutate. But for now, the sheltered and wasteland adaptation theories are the currently accepted explanations. Perhaps in the future, we may see far more mutated variants. Yet another creature of mystery, the horse, depicted in paintings, toys, and amusement park rides, has for all anyone knows, gone extinct. Though to be fair, it's more likely humans just haven't found where they are. Even so, it's a shame. From what I've heard, they're incredible traveling companions. I feel like we seriously missed out.
What if we use Yao Guai?
No, I doubt that. Just can't see Yogi going along with such a plan.
Would it make you feel better if I told you that I am personally confident that he has undergone enough training since you last interviewed me?
No.
Really?
How about this? If you can get not 1 but at least 3 Yao Guai to play nice and let people ride them, then I'll accept your claim.
Yeah, I'll take that challenge. But on the condition that you take a challenge of your own.
Go on then.
Nice. Alright, here it is. I put you in a ring with some Radsquirrels and you attempt to conquer your arachnophobia.
Can you guarantee my safety?
For the most part. Well, did you want me to lie?
No, I appreciate you being honest with me.
So it's settled?
I'm terrified.
I know. But it's gotta be done.
Unfortunately, but true. May we both survive our trials. Venturing further into the Appalachian terrain, A slow but gentle giant can be observed within the canopies of the mire. The once extinct Megasloth has made a return as a now irradiated and vastly different species. Their existence in the area lies on the actions of a singular man and his fascination of three-toed sloths, resulting in him keeping a small collective of said creatures in the upper levels of his family's estate, where he would study and admire them. Having adopted a habit of breaking free of their enclosed habitats regularly, it was this very behavior that allowed them to ultimately escape into the wild, becoming an invasive species of the area once the bombs fell silent. Through a combination of evolution and mutative influence, the sloths populated, grew in size, and became the megasloths we see today, now properly naturalized to the Appalachian wilderness. The hulking beasts, being passive creatures unless provoked, means that one can normally approach a megasloth without fear of it suddenly lashing out, but provoke a sloth, and it's a different story. Their claws, often a foot in length or longer, and meant for climbing and digging, find themselves a new purpose: guaranteed disembowelment. But clawing at their enemy is only one of the ways the megasloth can ruin the attacker's final day on Earth, as before even approaching, volleys of rock and rubble will be sent hurling towards them, forcing a temporary retreat and allowing the now enraged megasloth to close the distance at full speed, throwing off anyone who's grown accustomed to the leisurely lumbering movement they more often exhibit. And with the distance now closed, the megasloth can launch its secondary weapon, a biological attack via fungal spore dispersion, intended to dull the target's senses and movement even further through asphyxiation and partial blindness as the spore clouds envelop them. These mushrooms, fixed within the tangles of mangled fur, seem to grow exclusively upon the bodies of megasloths, forming a sort of symbiosis between the two, where the sloth's body acts as a perfect environment for the fungi's growth, while doubling as a spore deposit, and in turn, the megasloth gains an easy food source, if desired, as well as a helpful deterrent against aggressors. Just like the sloths before them, the megasloths enjoy a good tree or two to hang or clutch tightly, preferring a laid-back lifestyle and making themselves prime targets for impromptu adoptions. Our final specimen, residing in the barren sand-stripped hellscape that is Ohio, and mutated from the common swine. This is the Radhog, an absolutely hot-headed mess of a creature, filthy by choice, with a malformed tail and undoubtedly covered in a nasty stench favourable only to the flies that pester them. Mercilessly ferocious, these monstrous radioactively enhanced wild boars may even be more territorial than Yao Guai. A confusing discovery, but could be a bit easier to swallow if one considers their living conditions. A harsh landscape polluted with waste, toxins, rust, radiation, and unforgiving sandstorms that could tear a person's skin to shreds in the span of mere minutes without decent protection. It's no wonder that the animals here would end up more desperate than normal due to fighting over the last scraps of meat and vegetation, or for the last few puddles of water remaining in the area. While radhogs appear to be herbivores at first glance, it wouldn't be a far stretch to assume they're very much omnivores, as they can often be spotted chasing down wastelanders, instigating fights, or meandering away from their last successful mutilation escapade. Make no mistake, this species, considered invasive to the region far before it even went to hell, has gone to disgusting lengths to prove its negative impact, gobbling down every last bit of flora left standing before turning their sights on any nearby humans, who may not initially register the brutish swine as an immediate threat. Their teeth have mutated to account for their incredibly violent nature, but only the alphas appear to be able to take on an unbelievable amount of punishment to the body as they close in on the next victim. And yet, even with all the negatives in mind, there remains a rare but growing number of locals attempting with varied success rates to domesticate these rage-filled boars in hopes of one day bringing back the humble pig. There are many creatures out there waiting to be observed, appreciated, and feared. But these observations will have to be put on hold, as our time together has come to an end. So until we meet again, I'm Randy Cockett, and this is Fallout Geographic.